Welcome! Today we're diving straight into an analysis of some truly fascinating source material. We're going to unpack an advanced psychological framework all about personal growth and attraction. Have you ever wondered what makes certain men just incredibly magnetic? Well, we're going to explore the psychology of grounded attraction and reveal those subtle internal shifts that completely change how the world responds to you. Let's get right to it. Okay, let's dive into this. The source material points out a pretty staggering truth. 99% of women are silently drawn to a very specific type of man. And here's the kicker. He's not necessarily rich, he's definitely not your stereotypical bad boy, and he is absolutely not the overly accommodating nice guy who's always bending over backwards to please everybody. So that brings us to a really provocative question. Why do 99% of men fail to attract the women they truly want? For all of you focused learners out there, the data gives us a clear answer. Most guys just completely miss the mark. They rely on conventional, honestly flawed dating advice. They're constantly trying to prove themselves, act tough, or play these weird manipulative games. But that rare 1%? They operate on an entirely different, deeply internal level.
Section 1. The power of not seeking. This is the first major psychological trait we need to unpack. It's all about breaking that deeply ingrained habit of needing external validation, basically asking for permission just to exist. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference. On one side, look at the approval seeker. He's the guy laughing way too hard at every single joke, sending 14 texts a day, and totally panicking if plans change. He literally alters his voice and his opinions just to fit in. Now, on the flip side, consider the grounded man. He listens intently, he's not afraid to respectfully disagree, and above all, he's entirely unbothered. He doesn't compromise his core identity just to keep the peace. You see, women have a primal instinct. They can instantly sense when a guy is acting out of a need for approval. Conversely, they deeply respect a man who lives like he doesn't need anyone's permission to just be himself.
The source material shares an awesome anecdote to highlight this. It's the story of Mike. Now, Mike is a simple, kind of quiet software engineer. He was at this tech event where a highly sought-after, incredibly attractive woman was basically the center of attention. Literally every guy in the room was hovering, right? Trying so hard to impress her. But when she approached Mike, he didn't put on a performance. In fact, he just yawned. It wasn't him being rude, it was totally genuine. He was just exhausted. He didn't panic, he didn't overcompensate, and that simple, completely unbothered display of authenticity, it hooked her for months. She was drawn to the one guy who wasn't frantically trying to earn her attention.
Moving on to Section 2, Becoming the Perfect Mirror.
So this trait is all about shifting your mindset. You've got to go from constantly trying to prove your worth to simply reflecting the other person's reality. The crucial point here is how you respond. Imagine a woman tells you she's been working 14-hour days to get a promotion. An insecure guy who treats every conversation like a high-stakes audition might jump in and say, "Oh, well, I run my own business and I work 16 hours a day with absolutely no breaks." He just wants to win the conversation, right? But the grounded man, the mirror, he just looks at her and asks, "Sounds exhausting. Do you think it's really worth it?" Think about that. That is profound. It's not a competition. It creates instant intimacy. You're actually seeing her beneath the surface, reflecting her feelings without trying to dominate. Society is constantly trying to sell to or influence women, so when they encounter a man who just listens and reflects, it creates this incredible, extremely rare sense of safety.
Which brings us to Section 3, Calm Within the Storm.
Here we're exploring the powerful, magnetic pull of a man with deep, silent intensity. Just look at the difference between a loud presence and silent intensity. A loud presence? That's the guy who over-explains everything, desperately seeks the spotlight, and fills every single awkward silence with noise just to make sure he's noticed. But silent intensity? This is the guy who might only speak 5 words in a whole conversation, but man, every single word carries serious weight. He maintains comfortable, unwavering eye contact. He is totally grounded. As the source points out, this guy could be your local coffee shop barista, or he could be a billionaire. It honestly doesn't matter. Women are responding to that internal stillness, that emotional anchor, not his external volume or his bank account.
Let's just take a second to really appreciate this quote. A man can find no safer retreat than in his own soul. When a guy has built a safe haven within himself, he doesn't need anyone else to complete him. He's done the heavy lifting. And that internal peace, it draws people in like a giant magnet. When a woman steps into his orbit, she feels that powerful, controlled silence. Her heart rate actually goes up as she tries to figure out his mystery, and because she can never fully solve him, she keeps coming back for more. Next up, Section 4. Strength to walk away. This involves a rare, almost supernatural power to just walk away from disrespect without any anger or drama whatsoever. Let's break down exactly what this looks like in the real world. The source shares a story of a man dealing with a partner who was constantly testing boundaries, talking to other guys, and making up excuses. Now, instead of starting a massive screaming match or throwing a tantrum, he followed these exact steps. Step 1. He calmly acknowledged her freedom without a hint of anger. He simply said, you're free to do what you want, but I'm not the guy who waits around to be an option. Step 2. He smiled, walked away, and deleted her number. Boom. Step 3. He went completely silent and just moved on with his life. There were no games, no manipulative silent treatments, just genuine, unshakable self-worth. And guess what happened? 2 weeks later, she reached out admitting she'd made a terrible mistake. When you show that you value your own time and presence enough to gracefully exit, people instantly recognize your worth.
That leads us to Section 5, the art of true presence.
So this shifts our focus to how a man's physical and energetic presence can make someone feel entirely seen, like they're the literal only person in the room. Now, true presence isn't about some fake, puffed-up macho confidence. It means comfortable, unwavering eye contact. It's the total absence of nervous fidgeting. It's an energy that is playful but entirely unbothered. And most importantly, he doesn't desperately broadcast his desires. The source material references an online forum where a woman described being at this super crowded event. She noticed one guy who wasn't darting his eyes around trying to get noticed by everyone. He just held her gaze naturally when she looked his way. She actually ended up approaching him simply because his calm presence made him look like he didn't need anybody. He made her feel desired without acting desperate, and let me tell you, that is a magnetism money just cannot buy. Section 6. Turning pain into power. This is arguably the absolute most profound internal shift discussed in the source material, how a man processes his deepest emotional wounds. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this quote from Carl Jung elevates the entire framework. It connects deep psychology directly to emotional maturity. The men who possess that true gravitational pull, they're the ones who have faced their darkness, their trauma, and their unconscious fears, and actually brought them out into the light. They don't try to hide their scars behind a fake macho mask. They integrate them into their strength. It's all about rebuilding after betrayal and transforming heartbreak into an unshakable stillness. The text details a man who was deeply, deeply betrayed by the person he loved most in the world. He was crushed. Who wouldn't be? But instead of becoming bitter, angry, or playing the perpetual victim, he turned inward. He read, he traveled, he actively learned from mentors. He took his worst pain and transformed it into his absolute greatest strength. So when he finally re-entered the dating world, women could immediately sense this profound emotional depth. He didn't panic, he didn't cling. His pain had essentially carved out this deep reservoir of character that became incredibly magnetic, simply because it communicated profound safety and wisdom. Which brings us to a powerful summary. A lion never loses sleep over the opinions of sheep. This perfectly encapsulates the core philosophy of our explainer today. True internal strength, the kind that naturally, effortlessly draws people to you, means completely letting go of the need for external approval. It's all about standing firm in your own character, knowing your true worth, and walking your own path without constantly looking over your shoulder to see who's watching or judging you. So, as we wrap up this analysis, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. What kind of man are you choosing to become today? Are you going to keep chasing attention, playing games, and waiting around for permission to exist? Or are you going to do the hard internal work, build genuine character, and develop that unshakable, grounded presence that just naturally commands respect? Because the choice is entirely yours. Stop running after validation, start building that internal foundation right now, and just watch how the world responds. Thanks for learning with me today as we analyze this material, and I really hope this sparks some genuine growth in your own journey.